of all, thank you very much for your service to our country and your long career in the Foreign Service. And I want you to know that I walked into this committee hearing sympathetic because I ran a business that experienced rapid growth and had to address customer needs. And I know it's a challenge. You've got to bring on people, and I'm glad to hear that you're trying to get hired up as well. But that's not going to solve your problem. You need to address the system that you've got in place to be able to do that. Right now, do you have a backlog? I was given information that you've got a backlog of about 3 million passports. Is that accurate?
Waiting to be processed, we may have slightly less than that now.
Slightly less than 3 million to passport. I can tell you again, just sharing the experience in Nebraska, that a few years ago, it was a couple a month that we would get asked for help, I'm told, in the Senate office. My caseworker now is saying we're getting 5 or 6 a day. And so I know that, for example, when you're not processing things in a timely manner, that actually adds to your work. You need to address the systems, and I'm looking at some information I was given here that a recent State Department Inspector General report found that Consular Affairs did not effectively manage its responsibilities related to passport IT modernization activities, and that interdepartment planning lacked project management processes, timelines, and milestones for key implementation decisions. And you just told us you don't even have a goal that you're trying to reach to be able to get to about whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, down from your 10 to 13 weeks. Again, I've run large organizations, including most recently the state of Nebraska. If you don't set a goal, you are not going to get this number down. You have to set a goal first so that you can work backwards. Remember, we all have heard it. Start with the end in mind. Secretary Bitter, you've got to start with a goal first. Second thing, have you heard of Lean Six Sigma, which is a process improvement methodology? I would strongly recommend, I don't see it in your background, but get somebody on board who understands Lean Six Sigma. At the state of Nebraska, we successfully implemented that. We did like 900 projects, 900,000 hours of saving our teammates' time, but basically it reduces the steps. So for example, when we were doing an air construction permit, it was 110 steps long. We cut it down to 22, and we cut the time down from 190 days down to 65 days. It sounds like, when I listen to the problems you have, if you implement something like Lean Six Sigma, you will be able to help address some of these issues. And it gets back to, again, just making sure that you're setting goals and benchmarking it. One of the things I believe that the previous administration did is that they released the number of pending passport applications and updated that figure weekly. Are you doing that? Are you releasing your backlog and updating that weekly?
Releasing publicly, sir?
Yeah.
I'm not aware that we are.
Would you be willing to consider then? Would you commit to releasing that number so we can, again, getting back to the chairman's point, help track where you are doing with regard to your progress?
We're very happy to consider any suggestions that the committee has.
Yeah, I think that would, again, helping us be able to understand where things are rolling out and how things are going to be able to do that. I also wanted to hit upon 2 other topics, and I know I've only got a limited amount of time. First of all, with regard to what Senator Romney was saying, again, Nebraska, the nearest office, if you're driving, is Minneapolis or Chicago. It's at least a 6-hour drive. We just had a father and a young daughter having to drive there, so anything we can do to kind of mitigate that. Kansas City, I would love Omaha, but anything like that if you can do it. And then you talked about the your decline in the consular service revenue. And I believe that you've requested a statutory change in authorities, but you haven't documented the analysis to support these requests. And as a result, I guess my question is, why is the State Department unwilling to apply the GAO's recommendation to perform and share the analysis with policymakers so we're able to understand the impacts before taking legislative action? Again, my concern is if you're going to change something in statute without providing a business case, that we're going to have unintended consequences. Is there a reason why the State Department hasn't wanted to follow the GAO's recommendation with regard to coming back with a plan on this?
Thank you, Senator. There's a lot to unpack there, so please let me know if I'll dive in and you let me know if there's things that you need for me to address specifically. I want to just back up on a couple of things, and I'll start actually with our request for expanded spending authorities, which I think is one of the things that you've referred to. When the pandemic hit and we lost 60 or 50 rather percent of our revenue overnight. The Congress came to our rescue with appropriations. The other thing that it came to our rescue with was expanded spending authorities, which allowed us to move money, to move our resources to where challenges were emerging for us, just to more flexibly use the revenue that we had. And I'll give you an example of how we were able to use that, which is we were able to use increases in passport fees because we're completely fee-driven. We were able to use increases in passport demand to be able to hire overseas adjudicators for our visa work, which is not something that we would have been able to do before. Those authorities expire year to year and need to be renewed. And what we're seeking is for them to be made permanent so that we're better able to plan along the lines of the challenges that we've had that you've identified with respect to IT and hiring. We want to be able to have a more secure year-to-year ability to plan for those big items, and expanded spending authorities will allow us to do that. I can see that you want to jump in.
Yeah, no, my time's up, so I'm going to interrupt you here and just say, if you're going to want to make these changes, I can't support anything without a plan, and that's where I think that, again, the GAO recommended a develop a plan. Something about the cost model output is sufficient for the purpose. Again, just making sure we're lining up what you're charging for what the costs are going to be, so we don't overcharge people. So I would recommend that you follow the GAO's plan on that.
I would love if you are willing, Senator, for our staff to give you a briefing on that.
Yeah, absolutely, that'd be great.
We are very data-driven with respect to how much we charge the public. Thank you.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to see you, Assistant Secretary Bitter. And a lot of my colleagues have covered the territory I was going to cover, including Senator Ricketts just now. So I want to turn to a couple other